Yes, good.
So, did you hear that there was apparently a major return planned for this week's Monday Night Raw?
You don't say.
Yeah, actually. It's an interesting little tidbit, apparently, because there was this tweeting going around that there was this masked, mysterious man, sitting ringside last night. It's a picture of a guy wearing, like, one of those face mask things and then something around his head with, like, a hat on and a leather jacket. It was very interesting. Very, very interesting, but, you know who it was?
Who?
Manchester trying to beat the authorities because he's not supposed to be out of his restraining collar. But let's start the show. Hey everybody, and welcome to episode number 148 of Wooo Get Serious. My name is Gunner, that is Omega PR.
Because it's not inconceivable that Netchester could drive from the Phoenix area over to Colorado for Raw.
It wouldn't be terribly surprising.
Yes, I am implying that he was the left shark.
Actually, he was the right shark.
I have a little better rhythm than that.
Oh, God.
And the one bemoaning and groaning pretty much everything that Netchester says, it's Yank of DDS.
Hello! Hey, guess what I did? I made a thing, and now, if you're listening live and you don't know how to use TeamSpeak, you just can't into TeamSpeak, you can Skype us at Serious Podcast, or if you don't have Skype, you can call us at 812-408-WOO. You're welcome.
Dude, that's pretty cool. I did not know this coming onto the show, 45 minutes late.
Well,
gotta get that dinner
if
today.
you weren't 45 minutes late,
then you wouldn't have gotten it done, probably, because that's when you did it.
Netchester, was it done? Netchester.
Well, here's Netchester.
Yes, I'm here, although the jokes are about me instead of by me tonight. The only thing I can say was weirder than last night's Raw and the Super Bowl was the fact that my cat Gus is now eyeing my teriyaki beef jerky.
That's not odd, that's just a cat.
Yeah.
I know you don't understand a pussy, Netchester, but we'll get to that.
Oh, yeah, I walked into that one, didn't I?
Where is my fucking Price is Right horn for that joke?
Well, speaking of pussy, here's the croc.
Hey, fuck you. Guess what, guys?
What?
What? We're listening.
Go Patriots, bitch.
He made a great play. I don't understand why they were sitting there telling us that, it was such a terrible play call, blah, 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 blah. No! He made a good play call, and they made a better play.
That was single-handedly the best interception of all time.
That is how I feel at this particular interval. Okay.
Oh,
Since everybody's here, we're going to start talking with the news. So, Justin Gabriel, he quit WWE last week at the final Raw before Royal Rumble, leaving the arena in the middle of the day and returning only still to find nothing for him to do, then booking a flight home. In between connecting flights, he received a call from Mark Carano, who told him they had a segment booked for him, but Gabriel told him he was quitting.
Unfortunate, but not unexpected. I bet, the whole... I'm sure they didn't have anything for him until it was revealed that he wasn't there.
He left. Yeah, as soon as he left, they were like, well, we better come up with something for him to do so that we have an excuse to fire him for not being here.
Or rather, to save face, because he was there all day. Well, not all day, but at 2 points in the day, and then they didn't have anything. But they're not happy with the way he walked out, but what do they expect when they don't have anything for the... Presumably, he would have said something, which if he didn't, then maybe it's a little more uncouth. But, what do they expect?
This guy was in the hottest angle of 2010, and then they didn't use him for anything useful at all, period. It doesn't help that he doesn't have too much charisma, but it's the fact that he's a good flippy guy, he's a good kid, and he could do something. They just didn't do anything with him.
That's why he's booked everywhere.
Well, yeah, kudos to the guys who decide they don't want to be there anymore and pursue better interests. It's not that WWE is the worst place in the world to work, but if you don't like being there, then don't sit there and stew about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Good on him. He's out making money on the independents now. He's being booked everywhere. Are you kidding me?
Werewolf, sing my song, doo-dah, doo-dah.
Something like that. Moving on. Officials are happy with Kevin Owens' strong t-shirt sales and the fact that he brought his fan base with him. There were 20 men and 20 women at the tryouts last week. Along with them were Biff Busick and Tessa Blanchard. WWE officials now have a new rule that talent and office production people are not allowed to date. So, no more dating within WWE.
Really? I wonder where that came from. And more to the point, how are you... Okay, it's talent and office production. It's not talent and talent. Okay.
You can't date within the WWE, basically.
I just wanted to...
Well, if that's true, then who's going to leave? Brie or Nikki Bella, or whichever one's dating John Cena?
Well, of course, that doesn't... And even if it wasn't grandfathered, it wouldn't apply to them because, John Cena and the Bellas. They would not do anything to disturb the Bellas.
Exactly. That's what I was going for right there.
Nikki Bella's reign of terror is ridiculous.
Tits. Cows.
Boobs. Woo.
Cows.
But the WWE deal with Tap Out is being finalized. It could be announced in the next few weeks. Paper Cuts informed retailers that the next few issues of the WWE Superstars comic have been canceled, which usually means a change of publisher, but it looks as though the series as a whole is shut down. Might that have something to do with the fact that it was centered around Punk? I wouldn't be surprised.
I wouldn't be either.
Well, just for shits and giggles, I checked out the latest issue that has a cross-dimensional riff to it, and we've got professional wrestlers from not only different time periods, but different eras of reality, mixing it up with each other in some sort of storyline that even I, as a comic book aficionado, can't wrap my head around, and that's saying something. Denizens in that last comic were Knuckleball Abe Schwartz and some sort of alternate reality Bray Wyatt, where he's a gospel preacher, and it went downhill from there.
Interesting.
Breaking news: Brock Lesnar's walking out with Tap Out shorts out of Fastlane and WrestleMania. Yeah. So
the thing is, people criticize the current shirts as, just logos on black and too much goofy stuff on the back of the shirt. I hope that the Tapo deal doesn't result in the opposite side of the spectrum where, the entire shirt is one big graphic and, big giant, you know what I mean.
Yep. I think it's going to turn into something like that. I wouldn't be terribly surprised.
Much too busy.
As long as it doesn't turn into Sin Cara shirt 2.0, we're fine with it.
Oh, that was hilarious.
Boys, somebody's gonna be mad now. They gotta deal with Tapo. That's ideal. That's idea taking, man.
Speaking of idea taking, there seem to be issues with the commentary team for Lucha Underground, specifically with Vampiro not knowing moves or playing off of Matt Stryker, and using foul language that requires heavier editing. They continue to suggest that they want Jim Ross as a permanent announcer. Not gonna lie, Vampiro is the worst part about the Lucha Underground. Vampiro was okay, maybe 10, 20 years ago, but not now. Please go away. I like you, but please go away.
Ooh, ouch. Well, I have a soft spot in my heart for Vampiro, but he either needs to get his game better, or maybe we do need JR in there.
Well, you complain about announcers looking old. He looks old compared to... Now, granted, I'm remembering him from 20 years ago in WCW, but...
It's not going to be there. It will not be there. I will tell you that now. If Jerry was going to do anything, he'll do it for New Japan. It'll be someone different if they get rid of Vampiro, but it won't be there.
I just wouldn't mind if Conan was on there.
Yeah.
I didn't understand why they didn't put him on there in the first place, to be honest.
Yeah.
Doesn't he have a deal with, I want to say AAA, but I think that's wrong. So
AAA runs, whatchamacallit, Lucha Underground. Didn't you know that?
Oh. I said I knew that was wrong, and then Omega said it at the same time I did, CML.
It's not CMLL. No, he doesn't know CMLL. Conan's the main booker for AAA.
Yeah.
I thought he had a deal. Okay, maybe not. They should have brought in Conan though. Because he
that TBS deal's got to be getting stale by now.
Anyway.
Once again,
Speaking
my
of stale,
razor sharp wit goes unacknowledged.
I'm sure the finer-tuned fans have grown to appreciate your dry wit and humor.
Well, speaking of dry wit and humor, Bad News Barrett. Let's see what I did there. That was a good transition. Bad News Barrett revealed on Talk is Jericho that he was slated to come out to the recently departed CM Punk's theme music in Chicago, but the angle was nixed at the last minute, apparently because the people backstage in charge of things decided they weren't fucking morons.
oh,
I would have paid good money. Good money to be in that crowd.
Yeah.
It would have been a riot.
No.
this is Chicago.
It
would have been a literal
a
riot.
star being born. That's what it would have been.
Oh my God, him coming out and I'm saying, I'm afraid I've got some bad news. Nations would have been taken into account.
I'm not denying that people at home would have thoroughly enjoyed that. But the people having bricks thrown at their heads and, getting stabbed in the ensuing riot while the building's burning down, probably not so much.
At the same time, he has a good point because there were confirmed reports coming out of Philadelphia about the fans getting a little rowdy.
Well, yeah, I mean, there was that some idiot was doing we're blocking the entrance and whatnot, and there's a video of Ryback or something being like, yeah, thanks guys for booing what's his face, blah, 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 Roman Reigns.
And I believe one of the Usos almost fought.
Anyway, Sean Oliver of FA Commentaries appeared on the In Your Head Wrestling Radio, noting that depending on the name, some get paid thousands and other hundreds.
they had once had to scrap the ICP doing commentary on a China adult film because it really wasn't going anywhere, and they had to search far and wide for a specific vodka the Honky Tonk Man wanted. I wouldn't be terribly surprised about all that. It seems like, typical stuff that you'd bring in for a talent and whatnot if you were just going to sit them down and have them talk and treat them right, like kayfabe commentaries does. But, yeah, it's kind of cool to hear Sean Oliver's side of things.
I have to say that ICP's commentary is absolutely fantastic if you're a 14-year-old who's stoned off his ass.
Well, the ICP has their own demographic, of course, but I would be interested to hear almost anyone's take on almost any of China's porn films in any sort of manner that isn't, oh my god, what is this?
Well, guess what? Matt Jester, you've just nominated yourself. On Valentine's Day this year, we're going to do a live viewing of One Night in China, and we're going to do commentary over it.
No. Wait, who's running this?
Good question.
I don't know.
See, so you so kindly volunteered.
Are you kidding? I can't even get you guys to draw friggin' RPG characters to do a podcast, and
I did it! It's been done for like 2 weeks.
I haven't seen it, so I don't believe you. With that said, there's hold on, I gotta grab the other mouse. It's a little getting used to with the new technical setup here. It's time for the 15-minute time. So there was a podcast. I didn't get to watch much of it. I saw a little bit of the beginning. But basically, Austin was interviewing Triple H, and we will go over the highlights. We've got some bullet points here. And starting with the first one, Austin brings up that excuse me, I'm sorry. I don't know why I didn't turn off the talk button there. Austin brings up the Rumble and how kayfabe has died, and he mentions winning King of the Ring in '96 and how he didn't lobby for anyone else to have the spot, so what is Reigns supposed to do? Hunter says one man calls the shots, and that's Vince, and that the beauty of the business is that you can react live. He says, looking back objectively, he wasn't ready for that spot in '96, and Austin was.
Yeah, they kind of... I found it funny because, on Raw, Triple H gave a very kayfabe answer to Renee Young as far as his reaction to Daniel Bryan. And then immediately the first thing...
Oh, fearless leader.
Well, that's different. Between being on Raw and being on like a podcasty interview on the network. I mean, I don't expect Bruce Willis to turn and wink at the camera in the middle of whatever shitty, 9,000th Die Hard remake they're doing. I don't want him to turn and say, this gun's firing blanks, or any of that shit. I mean, okay, kayfabe's dead, that's cool, but let's not do it in the middle of the show.
Anyway, the whole idea of how kayfabe has died, and it's hard to book the reality era because so many are smart to the reality of it, and you even have major newspapers have columns online about reporting on some of this stuff, and for me, I think that's a good point, particularly the point that Austin brought up, the whole what's Roman supposed to do. Although it's not that people were blaming Roman so much as and to Austin's credit, he really kind of, without really hammering it into Triple H, he kind of criticized the writing, as he did with the podcast with McMahon. He said, it's sort of this idea of, well, it's the writers, what's going on with the creative, and Triple H didn't really have a strong answer for him, a direct answer for him, other than it's sort of a matter of time and his quote, working the work of the reality. But, I think he gave some very political answers, but they weren't unsatisfactory. He was good at sort of dodging the question, but giving a satisfactory sort of general protective answer.
So what I understand is that there was a couple things mentioned in this podcast that raised some eyebrows. Like, for example, the stuff about China and her going into the Hall of Fame.
Oh yeah. Now, we just had a little bit fun at Miss Joni Lawler's expense, but a lot of people have done some questionable things in the past, and they've gotten into the Hall of Fame. I really don't get Hunter's assertion, Tripps's assertion, that his 8-year-old could go on the internet and look up China, and yes, the very first thing that might come up might be one of her pornos, but, this is also a person that Hunter himself has worked with in the past, and I don't even think she's doing pornos right now. I haven't seen any news about her like forever, and the last thing I saw that she was taking a break from the adult industry. So I still don't see it as a problem that is really in search of a solution here.
Well, he said it was one of those questions, and Austin kind of pushed him for an answer, and I think that was a fair, again, this is kind of what I'm talking about. It was a fair political answer to give, but the reality of it is, it's not like the people in the Hall of Fame have never done anything bad, they've never done anything, this and that. So it's kind of a valid answer, but at the same time, if they really wanted her in there, then she probably would be. So it's probably a matter of they're not calling her, she's not calling them, which is kind of what they transitioned into the Hall of Fame, talking about how guys like Bruno and Warrior, Warrior was a little more misunderstood and didn't quite have a trust there, but with Bruno, it was sort of like, it was one of those deals where, Bruno thought they were too mad and Vince thought Bruno was too mad to really talk, and nobody wanted to be that first guy to kind of reach out, which is why you have Triple H there as kind of the mediator.
Right. That was kind of weird. To see that go on the way it did. Another part that I found interesting was the NXT portion of the conversation.
Oh yeah.
It was when they were talking about Fergal Devitt and how he was shell shocked after never being told all the production side of like where the cameras were and all of that stuff, especially with his unique entrance at Revolution, and how big of a hand they had in that.
Yeah, Austin made a point to emphasize it. He emphasized his speech when he said this. He loves NXT for emphasizing the wrestling and not necessarily always a 20-minute promo.
At the very beginning of the show, yeah.
Yeah. And, Hunter kind of says, he tries to write and craft NXT, partly based on what he would like to see, and partly, it seems like Hunter knows the audience a little bit better for NXT, considering it is a show that's going to be on the network. It is a show that more of the hardcore young adult males are going to catch, rather than sort of the general audience that Raw and SmackDown have cultivated now.
Let me get my soapbox out real fast. I am so happy that he said what he said about NXT, because it confirmed a lot of what I thought it was. And after the Punk interview, I really hated Triple H, and now he's really making it hard for me to hold on to that. If this really is what the future holds for the WWE in 5 to 10 years, hot damn.
Well, it's, Triple H does have, they even brought that up slightly, the fact that he did marry Stephanie, and for a long time it kind of bothered him, this idea that everything he had done in his career had been negated by this act of marrying Stephanie and this idea that he was. Well, I mean, we all know what he meant, but and the Undertaker told him once too that who cares what they think? You know what you've done. And that's kind of the idea, too, is, there's very candid situations like these where we kind of get to hear his side of it. And, and that, in turn, doesn't negate his reputation, like the fact that he's been in every major storyline in the past 5 years. But yeah, I'm sure if everybody had got to be in that sort of candid situation, I think people would be, us as fans would have a more general understanding and more of a, not necessarily just based on what we hear and kind of see on television.
No, I did say, I earned a little bit of respect for Triple H for his answer on NXT, but there's one thing I will say about his little comment about, you gotta learn our style compared to what you know. That's bullshit, because you're saying, Japan has their own style, Mexico has their own style. Bullshit. You're talking about guys like Ricochet, guys like Fergal Devitt, guys like Kevin Steen, who are, masters of what they've done, and you're saying, no, you can't do that, you gotta do this. No, let them be them. Let them do what they do best. Let them shine and just put the rocket up their ass.
Well, again, he did kind of give sort of a safe political answer when he made an analogy to the NFL and saying that, if you've gone from, like, say, the Jets to the Patriots, I know you know how to do what the Jets do, but I want you to run my playbook. I want you to run Patriot plays, which I thought was a pretty good analogy, frankly. And he brings up Kurt Angle as a guy who, never really watched wrestling and such, pro wrestling that is, but picked it up pretty quickly. By that same token, I agree. He did emphasize that point of, he used the term bad habits when talking about the independents and kind of hammering them out.
That's bullshit.
Well,
bullshit.
It's not.
Well, are you saying the blocks are too? So what?
It's not. No. You're not understanding what they're talking about here. You shut your mouth and open your ears for a second here. No offense. Basically, what he's saying when they say you need time down in NXT to get used to our style. There's a certain style of working the camera and how to work in front of a crowd that's taping the show or in a live setting that is a little more professional than some jack off with a fucking flip camera standing in some bingo hall trying to film you.
And Gunner knows because he's been that jack off with the flip camera and the bingo hall.
Exactly. And there's a whole lot more to it than just, you sitting there, and we were just talking about this with Devitt, than a whole lot of, just sitting there and just having that flip camera. It's there's angles, there's people to point to, there's timing that you have to get down, there's working with the referee, it's playing up, and it's a completely different style. I mean, it's much like strong style, it's much like lucha, it's much like all of that. You could throw all of those elements in there, but at the same time, you have to keep it within an 8-minute match. You have to be smart about it so that you can do those bumps and do those moves, 200 times a year, even though, because I guarantee you that you don't work 200 times a year, or that I didn't work 200 times a year, or that that a lot of the independents, except for the top maybe 5% of them, work more than 200 times a year. You have to work safe, and there's a certain level of burnout that you have to get used to, and there's a certain level of ability that you have to get used to. That's why it's not bullshit. There's a whole technical aspect and a whole psychology aspect of it that just you don't get into necessarily when you get into the indies, because you have to play to a television audience. You're not playing to an audience in front of you, you're also playing to an audience at home, and you have to acknowledge that.
Yeah. I to that end, I think both sides are legitimate in their own way. But, when he emphasized the whole bad habits thing, I think he kind of, with that inflection, let's just go ahead and talk about it now. There was a point where Austin brought up CM Punk. And I was genuinely surprised that he did. I thought they were going to let that one lie. But he kind of transitioned into it saying, Vince is the guy who kind of has had burned bridges, and you're the guy who kind of builds it back up. So on the subject of CM Punk, which made Hunter kind of laugh unnervingly, like it kind of blindsided him. But Hunter brings up this idea of, right from the get-go, in OVW, there were rumors that Hunter didn't like Punk or whatever, and he didn't really know why they got there. He didn't really have time to know who Punk was. And, of course, the whole idea of the pipe bomb and the feud with Hunter directly after the pipe bomb, which basically what he said about it was, all of that was, A, it was a Vince call, and B, it was all meant to help him, but it just didn't work for whatever reason. Nash couldn't hang. And in general, he just kind of called Punk a weird cat in terms of somebody who just doesn't really talk or doesn't really communicate a lot. And which, I could buy. But at the same time, again, he seemed to be a little bit reserved about what he was saying about the guy. He did say that, never say never if they can get past it, as far as him maybe coming back. But if wrestling isn't his passion anymore, then obviously he shouldn't be there.
Exactly. And from what we've understood and from the podcast that we were told, he's not there anymore. He wants to go do this UFC thing, and he wants to go take care of everything else. And I totally congratulate him for that. And, to bring up Punk in this aspect is a smart thing by Austin, because there needs to be something said about that particular thing to give Triple H a response in that particular moment. While it's less relevant right this very second, because it's not, Thanksgiving anymore, or Christmas or whatever the hell it was. It's still something that Hunter has basically had an answer to. Let's see if there's anything else. Let's see what else is there.
He did say there was a Twitter question. I think this was actually by the Brock Lesnar guy. This question: does he see anybody who could be the next Cena or Hogan or Austin? And again, Hunter kind of gave a nice answer while dodging the question. He didn't name anybody specifically. He said he brought up the X factor and saying you can't just be good at one thing. Specifically bringing up the Undertaker gimmick and how a lot of guys would have died a horrible death with that gimmick, but that Mark brought it to new heights.
Yeah, he can't say anything about that, considering the fact that he's, basically the guy to make that call, Obviously, they have someone or something like that to actually talk about, but no, he's not going to do that unless he wants to.
Well, and again, Roman Reigns in the Royal Rumble, Austin didn't nail him directly about it, like, what the hell were you doing, why was it Reigns, why was Bryan eliminated so early? But on the subject of Reigns being handed the brass ring, for example, he said, he kind of, again, kept it reserved, saying, everybody works hard, it's not a matter of who works the hardest or whatever, and this isn't a business based on who deserves it, which, again, is sort of true and untrue, kind of true in the way that Austin said it, where, you're not going to necessarily step up for somebody else if you're the one on deck, but at the same time, there are certain people who obviously are connecting in a way that other people don't, and they didn't address the fact that, Roman Reigns, all the potential in the world, but right now he's just not that guy connecting as much. There was some other just the banter too between. I would say the Vince interview was better overall, but maybe just because it's Vince. I did like a lot of the banter between Austin and Hunter, because these are two guys who worked together for a long time, telling the story about the fan jumping the rail in Germany, beating on Austin, and Austin couldn't do anything because he had just been laid out by Hunter, and then Hunter has to suplex the guy off, call for security, and then things like Hunter said the NWO he felt was more influential at first, but it didn't last because it got too watered down, and and he thinks DX did more in the various incarnations. Hunter brings up Buddy Rogers as the guy he would wrestle, the first guy he saw, really transcended into a larger-than-life character. The whole WrestleMania 12 thing, where he said, that he claims he is proud of, because his first WrestleMania he gets asked to work with the returning Warrior, and he thought that was so cool, which it probably was at the time. I'm sure they don't go out of their way to bring it up these days, obviously. But.
Yeah, I mean, it is cool to do that, and at that particular moment, at that particular time, to work with him. But at the same time, you got to sit there and I'm sure that it was cool, all right. And I could just hear the snark in his voice when he says that. It's ridiculous.
Well, he even said it. He even said.
Yeah.
Go on.
There, Crocky.
Sorry about that. No, I was on the wrong page and it started creating a whole bunch of numbers. That guy was saying, he said when he was talking about the WrestleMania 12, he was like, yeah, there was a little grinding going on back then. We were butting heads a little bit, but it's still a cool thing to say. You went against Warrior when nobody knew he was coming back. Yeah, you lost the way you did. But still, it's a cool thing.
Well, our own Kevin. Yep.
I was just gonna say I'd get squashed by Warrior.
Oh yeah. Well, I think part of it too is Warrior did come back and they did have a special moment, and then Warrior did tragically pass away right after it. So up until that point, I'm sure there was a certain level of animosity, but now it's all water under the bridge. So.
Right.
I was going to say our own Kevin Dunn, Mr. Yankum, is telling us we need to wrap it up here. So if I may bring up one of the last things they said, which is about promos and such, and Hunter says a lot of the promos are a product of time. There's certain factors like being careful with sponsors and trust in the talent. Some like to be scripted, some of the others don't. Ideally, stories would have more time to develop, and that led into the fact that Hunter did say that if there's one thing he'd change about Raw, he would make it 2 hours again, because it's exponentially harder to write 3. But again, it's a Vince decision, it's a finance, it's an everybody else decision. But he did make a point to say he would make it 2 hours. Which at
this point we totally agree with.
Yeah.
Because that third hour is so, it kills the product. While, we might sit here and might have this, that, or the next thing, it's time to move on. Just like it's time to move on from this show, which I'm waiting for that buzzer to come down, but apparently it's not, because our Kevin Dunn is just completely, enamored with the fact that he exists.
I refuse to acknowledge you when you refer to me as Kevin Dunn.
Oh, there it is.
If you look at that 2-hour SmackDown that they just had and how fluid it seemed to go, and then here's 3-hour Raw again, it just seems to have a lot of nonsense.
Fuck you, you're wrong! Fuck you, we're right!
A wild Polly is seen.
Speaking of a wild Polly, I'm hungry, and I'm not fed.
Yeah, let's listen to it again on the radio as we go through the.
So apparently Jacob's not there for the buzzer, but he is there for that. So with this week's ratings, Jacob DDS.
Alrighty here, let's see, I've got this new computer, it's all newfangled and not entirely sure what I'm doing here, but the impact ratings appear to have suffered a 17% drop. Nope, everything is exactly in order. Dropped at 431,000 viewers compared to last week's 517,000. The replay, however, was up 36% from the prior week. I'm not sure if that's the replay was up from the actual show's ratings or just the previous replay. It does not say because whoever pasted that in there, probably Gunner, did not include that information. Good job, Gunner. SmackDown! Yes, it was. Omega wouldn't do that. He's a professional. Like some other people around here. SmackDown averaged 2.952 million viewers. That's up 5% from last week's show at 2.814 million. And, of course, Raw on the 2nd. That'd be last night. The first traditional arena version of the Raw since Royal Rumble averaged 4.292 million viewers, according to Nielsen Media Research.
And with the birthdays, are you ready, buddy?
Oh, why do I feel like a lamb to the slaughter all of a sudden?
Because you're not. The Croc.
Whack-a-mole!
I was waiting to decide who was going to do it. So, for birthdays this month, we got, on the 4th, Chris Sabin and the big man, LT Lawrence Taylor. Thereafter, we have TNA's Madison Rain. And on the 8th, we got Corey Hollis, Sherry Martel's birthday, and Jen the Anvil Neidhart. Didn't they mention something like that on the app this week on Raw, I think? There's some kind of thing about Jen.
I don't pay attention to the app.
Good point. The 9th, Shelly Martinez, the vampire chick from ECW. Medusa. And on the 10th, the birthday of Louis Piccoli and crazy one with the eye, Tara and Victoria. One that had Nicki Minaj sing her theme.
All right. And, and now it is time for This Week in Wrestling with Omega BR.
Yes, this week in wrestling history, circa 1956, where Mighty Ursus and Bob Wagner defeat Ken Kenneth and Lou Kim, Rube Wright, for the vacant Northwest Tag Team title in Vancouver, British Columbia. Jump to 1967, where Danny Little Bear defeats Jack Dalton for the NWA Gulf Coast Louisiana Heavyweight title in Lafayette, Louisiana, ending Dalton's second reign. And in 1996, the Eliminators, Cronus and Saturn, defeat Cactus Jack and Mikey Whipwreck for the ECW World Tag Team title at Big Apple Blizzard Blast in Queens, New York, to end Jack and Whipwreck's second reign. Also on that show, AAA welterweight champion Rey Mysterio Jr. defeated Juventud Guerrera, and Chris Jericho defeated Rob Van Dam. And that was this weekend wrestling history.
Alright, happy trails this week to the before mentioned Lisa Marie Varon, who it turns out will no longer be running the Squared Circle in Chicago and has moved back out west. Her husband will still have a hand in running it, though. We had recently heard some shenanigans going on between her and her husband. So
that sucks.
Yeah, there's that. And happy trails to, am I reading this right? Mick Foley.
Unfortunately, yes.
Mick Foley? What are we saying? Happy trails to, who was thrown out in disgrace at Wing Bowl 23 eating contest after he was caught stuffing uneating wings into his fanny pack. Foley claims he did this as a joke after he realized that he would never come close to the other competitors and might end up throwing up.
I believe him. Because
I do too.
If it was anybody else, I'd be like, no, you're a fucking liar. You were cheating. You're a piece of shit. It's a wing eating contest. Who gives a fuck? But since it's Mick Foley, I absolutely believe that he thought it was funny to stick chicken wings in a fucking fanny pack. That sounds like if I said stick wings in a fanny pack, there's not a person in this team speak that wouldn't go, Mick Foley.
You're sad
Probably.
but true there.
Probably.
And that's why he's fantastic. I'm just saying.
Alright, so what should we watch this week in wrestling? The Croc?
You should. Well, I would say what's going to happen in a couple weeks, but for this week, I'm going to say watch one of the main events off of the New Beginning Road 2 shows. Reason being, it's a nice little holdover from Royal Rumble if you have that still little salty taste in the back of your mouth. It cures it right away.
Net Jester, which we watched this week in wrestling.
Well, once again, I'm going to go into my DVD collection, and the recently given to me by my sister, 3 DVD set of Ricky Steamboat, The Life Story of the Dragon. On the second DVD is a little bit of an old classic. We have the NWA World Tag Team Championship match from Starrcade, November 24th, 1983. None other than Ricky the Dragon Steamboat and Jay Youngblood versus both Jack and Jerry Briscoe.
Okay, and Omega BR?
Well, I'm going to go ahead and cop out this week and say that you should, if you hadn't, catch that podcast recording between Triple H and Steve Austin. It really was a good listen and a good watch, really, when you see their expressions and everything. I was a little disappointed they didn't bring up Sting, but that's the only kind of caveat I have with Triple H at the moment. But it does make sense why they didn't. Toward the end, they're mentioning, can't really give it away in terms of what the plan is. So, but it really was. It was. I hope they do more. In fact, maybe they'll have Stephanie on, or maybe even Shane on. That would be interesting.
Oh my god, I would love to have Shane McMahon and to have him do a tell-all about all the crazy shit he did in the late 90s and early 2000s. That would be quite possibly one of the most watched podcasts of all time. Hey, Yankum, it's your turn. I didn't forget about you.
Really? That's nice of you. So I'm gonna cop out as well and just say Bryan versus Rollins last night, which was actually a pretty damn good match. It wasn't like super fantastic, but it was a good, solid match. I liked it.
You know, in this whole time that I've been sitting here listening to you guys actually give, recommendations for all of this nonsense, I am going to say
He's been
actually, I'm going to say Daniel Bryan's first match in the WWE. It was against Chris Jericho. It was like 3 minutes long. It was on NXT, and it included one of the sickest dives that you'll ever see in your entire life. I can't believe that match is old enough for us to look back on it and go, wow, that was almost 5 years ago. It's 4 years ago now, I believe. But, yeah, go check it out, because it was awesome. There you go. Alright, so, thank you all for listening. We appreciate it very much. We are going to be back here next week. Same bad time, same bad channel. You can check us out on smarksnark.com. You can also check us out on Spreaker.com/smarksnark, Facebook.com/smarksnark, Twitter.com/smarksnark, where I haven't been tweeting that much. I think Yankum has a little bit, but I'm trying to make more of a point to do that. We also have smarksnark@gmail.com, booking at smarksnark.com if you're looking to book yourself onto the show, and what was the Skype?
The podcast name is the Skype name. You can Skype us at Serious Podcast, and just 1 second here to look at the number. I have not memorized it yet.
I know it's 812 something 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 woo. As he's doing that, thank you guys for listening. We would love some feedback. If you're listening out there and you'd be so kind as to tell us what we're doing right, what we're doing wrong, and whatnot, and contact us on one of these various...
812-408, because go fuck yourself, Gunner, for calling me Kevin Dunn, you worthless piece of shit. 812-408-9666. That's 812-408-WOO.
Are you serious? 666. What the fuck?
It's O, Gunner.
At least it wasn't with two. At least it wasn't two.
Yeah, that was an absolutely beastly joke. Let's move on.
Thank you all for listening, and wish you well in your past, present, and future endeavors.
He's gonna puke! He's gonna puke! Oh, no, he's not.
Good night, Osceola.
Jesus!